Hopefully it happens. All right, there we go. All right, things are happening. All right, so I think Dan. Oh, okay, I think I got you both. And Dan, oh, good. So yeah, Dan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'll give an introduction for the topic.
Okay, great.
Oops.
You guys still have me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it just my screen switched on me. It kind of freaked me out. I'm the president of the Kingsport Community Association, representing the community, and you just wanted introductions. Is that correct?
Yep, and I'll get back to you in just a hot second. Yeah, and then
okay.
Yeah, same to you, Timothy Lowe.
Yes, I'm Tim Lowe. I'm a resident of Kingsport.
Great, thank you both so much for being here. We really appreciate it. All right, so as a quick rundown for everybody, so we're here to talk about, to revisit a gate cure decision. And I'm going to just go a quick brief history of this issue here. So we received, gosh, I didn't write this down, but a number of months ago, a complaint about a gate at the Kingsport Community Association, believed to be impacting the conservation easement. We received that complaint from Bob Wilson. At our last board meeting on September 10th, the board voted to approve an order to cure the gate, which means to remove the gate. A letter to cure was sent by the city around September 10th. After that time, we heard a number of concerns from Kingsport residents about the order to cure, and the city and our board kind of went back, did some more digging to better understand the issue, the concerns that were there, and really to get a few things clarified related to the gate and the easement itself. And during that period, we voted to have a stay for the cure order, which is in effect until the end of today. So today we'll be hearing from Timothy Lowe and Dan Brooks, an opinion from both of them about the gate, and have some discussion among the board members and decide if we want to rescind the order to cure or continue with it. Any questions about kind of where we are, where we've been, or what we're doing today from the board members?
Do we just confirm that everybody read the documents you emailed out?
Sure. All right. So let me take us up a trip down memory lane. Okay. So I sent an email with some points from Ashley Leonard, as well as a letter that was received from Dan Brooks.
I have it all the way down. So maybe like that. Theoretically, right now you should work.
So the fellow behind Jackie's desk, we can hear you now.
Oh, good. It does work. Sorry, guys.
So where's my video? Can they see
All right.
it?
Could you?
We're muting.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Good heavens. All right. Yeah. So Karen wanted to see if folks got the documents that I sent ahead of time. There was a letter that Dan Brooks put together with an understanding from the Community Association, and we had a statement from Timothy Lowe that I sent as well. Previous to that, I sent a whole kind of zip file of all the letters and complaints that we'd received from various residents at Kingsport. Did everybody receive those materials, and have you had a chance to look over them? Okay, I see nodding heads from the ones I can see. Meg and Tom, how about you two?
Yes, I read them.
Okay. Tom, sorry, you have to come off mute again. Maybe there's something in the chat.
Yay! Yes, finally, you have to punch two buttons in order to do this. Yeah, I'm fine. I did take a look at them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. So where are we here? All right, so Dan and Tim, I'm going to give you both each 5 minutes to speak and kind of share your thoughts and concerns from the community and from your perspectives related to the gate on the Kingsport easement. Before I do that, I just want to revisit a couple of points for everybody, making sure we're starting from the same kind of baseline here. We did go back and ask city staff to confirm whether or not the gate is in the easement. The gate was confirmed by city staff to be within the conservation easement. Jackie, would you mind muting your microphone until you're, thank you, sorry about that. All right, so again, so we had city staff that confirmed that the gate is in the conservation easement area. And whether or not this is kind of too late for the city to claim the issue. Again, a conservation easement runs with the deed, which means it's it runs with the property. So regardless of when the infraction began, if you are a current owner and the infraction is still there, and actually you can come in here and provide the correct language that I'm not doing a very good job of, but.
All right. So
go ahead.
the conservation easement has two different requirements. One, that you not build a structure, and then two, that you not maintain or keep it. So regardless of who originally built it and the original violation, if a party maintains or keeps it, then each day that you're doing that is a continued violation because you're maintaining it, keeping it there. So that's really what the focus should be on, because I'm not sure at this point we can necessarily figure out who did the original violation of building it, but we can focus on who is maintaining and keeping it, which is a separate violation.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question about that? Because are you sure that that's true to Kingsport's easement? Because I know in the past we have, when we've evaluated, I think it might have been when they wanted to put the dog park or something in, that we had looked at their easement and it specifically said that existing structures like were exempt. So like the path, the asphalt path, like there was language that like made it clear, like things that had been built by the developer were like exempt from that.
I can double check it right now, but I looked at it before and I don't believe so.
I think it might specify very specific things, Karen, but if you
Okay.
know of that statement and can pull that up, that'd be helpful.
I don't know that matters too much, but I just wanted to make that point since it has been kind of a precedent from our board that in other parts of Kingsport where like we assumed like since like the path was installed by the developer that didn't apply as a structure.
Well, there are things called permitted activities, which is a separate section, which is like grading and filling in areas adjacent to public roads, establishing pathways, grading or filling asphalt, placing benches. So that's a whole different section. That section though does not talk about structures like gates.
Okay.
So
Maybe
what
that's
you're
not
talking
the good-
about is, yes, the original developer, Crab Cove, had permitted activities they could do in there. And yes, those permitted activities would be continued, would not be considered violations. But as I read it, I don't see anything in the permitted activities that includes building a gate, that like the one in question.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, that's been checked by the city. Again, the city found that it was within the conservation easement area. One thing I want to point out, it was a question at our last board meeting for board members. The easement language does not stipulate that the easement areas have to be publicly accessible. That's not part of this easement language. Let's see what else. One thing I just want to remind everybody again, kind of actually visit the city code. So someone's got some background noise. Would you mind muting your phone a little bit? Sorry about that. Thank you. Oh, Lordy. Okay, so yeah, so we had actually visited the city code. So the board's authority again and role is not to address kind of security issues or access by the general public to a conservation easement, which aren't primary objectives of an easement, but is to assist the city in monitoring and enforcing restrictions imposed by deeds of conservation easements. So that's our primary role as the board. Another thing I wanted to point out, which you all probably saw in the email, is that the Kingsport Community Association and Bob Wilson, the Kingsport resident, have come to an agreement about the gate that I think addresses both of their issues. It's a good compromise. And I will actually let Dan Brooks go ahead and talk about that, and go ahead and take your time and share whatever information you'd like to share, Dan.
Okay, I apologize for any background noise because I'm at a school. And I hope there's no nefarious things that happen behind me. I'm probably okay. But I did want to thank you all for allowing us to come and present our perspective. And thank you again for the stay of the initial order. As you guys read the letter, we understand you guys are also a board of volunteers. You obviously have expertise, access to the city. But we did want to relay that, this does represent the perspective of the majority of our households in Kingsport. I don't know if everybody agrees with, unanimously in terms of, putting a timer on the gate. I think if Mr. Campbell would be here, he would argue that Mr. Wilson shouldn't have leverage in making these decisions. But I'm not gonna get into that. I think the bottom line up front for us was that when we talked to him, he was basically said, yeah, if we did some things to put a timing function on that and make that more accessible during the day, that would, and make some other improvements, which we agreed with, that would basically eliminate his opposition to the gate and potentially could have prevented him from filing this. So I think you guys have all read the letter, but like I said, we are absolutely certain this was installed by the builder in 2005 for security reasons. I also need to highlight for the community that we've never had the amount of turnout at a board meeting as we did and regarding this issue, and it was very heated, mostly against the initial complaint. I don't want to get into disparaging anybody, but I can say that the residents that live near the gate and then broadly across the community are very much in favor because of the history of crime in the area. You all may have seen the crime map from Eye on Annapolis, but there's numerous assaults, robberies, car thefts, physical assaults, gun violence, etc. that's occurred in the neighborhood. There have been multiple shootings not too far from our house, so there's a concern over safety. The residents near that gate also have observed over time a lot of traffic through that gate because the gate was unrepaired for, I think, at least 5 years, which predates my residency in Kingsport. But that all being said, we wanted to highlight too that this did occur prior to the formal transfer. I think in your mind, you're saying that this deed runs, or the easement runs with the deed. I think I understand your point. I guess our question is this was never brought up previously, and we don't have any record of anyone ever complaining about this gate to Kingsport, to our homeowners association. I did also want to emphasize, I think Trudy's on the call. Kingsport's been, I think, a pretty good neighbor to the city. I mean, part of this development was giving land to the city. I know specifically regarding the path that goes between Greenbrier and Bywater, we have never chosen or sought to exercise our fee simple ownership rights by restricting anybody. And I think there was sort of informal conversations early on that happened with the city about desire for throughput and all that. So we've never opposed that, even though we maintain the area. And solely at our expense. The unintended consequence of that is that people can kind of come and go at any hour of the day, and that's brought crime to those residents that live near the gate. So that was, like I said, originally there was a holdup at gunpoint of the developer. Crime has continued through the years, and I know in two separate instances that I know of this past summer, trespassers and or theft activity was observed going through that gate. So that's the reason for that. I did also want to highlight too that the putting a lock in and all that has really cut down on traffic, and residents have been pretty happy with that. We haven't received any additional complaints. We've had a few people contacting us say, hey, where's the code? It's posted on our website. We give it to them. But the bottom line is it's been a helpful feature. I did also want to highlight from a previous meeting, we reviewed your conservation board videos from the previous 2 sessions. And I do know somebody brought up, I don't remember who it was, but it's not without precedent in other areas of the city. I can tell you too that there are several other gates with locks in conservation easement areas within Kingsport. Those I think obviously are required for safety. But those, like near our decorative ponds and retention areas and stormwater runoff. But there's a lot of features that are contained, within the conservation easement. And, rather than getting into debating the intent of those or whatever, we just maintain that this is a very common sense thing. It won't restrict anybody's rights during daytime if we go with the proposed solution. And that our residents always have access to it. And basically, what it does is prevent the public from entering through that area, which is it's about midway between both of those roads. It's heavily forested. It's not someplace I actually would even walk at nighttime myself. And so basically, by putting that lock in, we've prevented people from. We've forced them to a well lit main thoroughfare of the community. And it doesn't bar access for the public. We did review your charter, and I understand, a part of your Conservancy Board charter is to look at preserving open space and recreational and development opportunities within the city. We would argue that, the area is open for it's for the enjoyment of our residents. In that area, we let the public transit through, but we believe a certain level of control is needed in that area specifically. And so, getting towards a solution, we wanted to just highlight that, the three things were added. One thing was mentioned was a metal bar that protrudes above the asphalt, which creates a trip hazard or anything else. We don't have any complaints about that, but I have personally looked at this and reviewed this issue extensively. I think that's a pretty easy fix for us. We, every, I don't know how many years, we do maintenance on our pathways. That includes asphalt overlay on top of the existing pathways and improvements. And so that's something that we could do fairly quickly within the next, maybe within 6 months, depending on the weather. The lock is easy to put in a model that has a timed function, and we would propose leaving it open during the day. And then that technically means that non-residents could still use that gate, but it makes it easier for our residents. But then basically at nighttime, it would lock itself. And then the third thing was just improving the look of the area. It's a big black gate. Some people have objected to that. We could improve the way that looks by painting it to match, and all of that would be there. But I do know that if we were to remove that gate, that activity is going to continue in that area, and residents are very, very anxious about this. And I would just say too, given the current climate with the pandemic and safety and everything else, people are pretty nervous and on edge, and so we received a lot of passion about this issue, and you've probably seen a few of those letters. And so we just would ask that I think it's within your ability to decide that these proposed changes could really cure this issue and allow us to keep this in place. I can tell you that, we've looked and we've been concerned about trespassers, given COVID, given what's happening in the country. I think maybe we've been a little more understanding of people and, adults that are walking in the area that are not causing trouble. We're not as concerned about that. And really, realistically, there's no way to, completely gate off Kingsport. And that is not our intent. This is the only gate that's existed. We didn't take any action other than fixing a lock. And hopefully you saw in the photographic exhibits, the signs that are on there, all original to the community. Most of those amenities have been up in the community for 15, 20 years. And Kingsport is a sizable community. We have 400 to 500 residents, about 200 children. Safety is a concern. We've had issues. And so we would just ask for the city's consideration of these. And part of the reason I asked Mr. Lowe to attend is that he's a senior officer in the Annapolis Police Department, and he lives in the area. He's familiar with the calls that we get. He's familiar with the surrounding neighborhoods. And I think he can provide some valuable perspective. So I'll go ahead and end there and let him go. And then if you need to come back with me with questions or clarification, I can go from there.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. We really appreciate your time. And Captain Lowe, I think you're off mute. If you want to go ahead.
Yes, I am. Good evening, everyone.
Hey.
I'd just like to say that I totally agree with Dan. This gate is in between Bywater Road and Greenbrier Lane, which are two well-lit areas to enter the community. I would say it's approximately 75 yards in between both of those. And like you said before, we've had some issues in the area, and by keeping the gate open, it provides easy ingress and egress for criminals or things of that nature. The community is completely open to anyone that wants to enjoy it through Bywater Road and Greenbrier Lane. But it would help us greatly by being able to keep the gate there and keep it secured in the evening.
Great. Thank you so much, Captain Lowe. Really appreciate your time as well. Let's see, any questions from our board members for Dan or Tim. Okay. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, Joanne, Tom Lippert. Yeah, just a question here. You know, it sounds like there is a, you know, real or perceived need, you know, for some isolation. Has anybody within the community homeowners association, however, actually gone to the city, not necessarily the board here that you're speaking with tonight, in order just to, you know, share the concerns? Because from what I'm hearing, it sounds like the concerns would be more a matter for public safety. The concerns would be a matter that you would probably take to your older person, to indicate that there is a heightened concern for the relative safety of the area, that you feel something needs to be done. This is one of the potential things that, you know, might assist in order to get the buy-in from, you know, from the city itself, as opposed to, again, the Conservancy board here, which is tasked with, you know, interpreting what is currently written as the decisions that were made, and gone from there. It sounds like, you know, what you're talking about would be something that would be more properly addressed at either the mayoral or your alderperson, you know, to bring that in front of the city council. Has anybody gone and done that, just out of curiosity?
So I know we have, I don't think we've ever formally brought it to the city. I could be wrong, and I would probably have to get back on that. And I'm sure, I know we have residents that are listening tonight. They could speak to that. I do know that we frequently talk with the police. I know this past summer, because of trespassing issues, I met with the police at least 5 different times on different areas. Now, it wasn't all surrounding that gate area. It was just general trespassing and some other things and some thefts. We had probably 3 or 4 thefts that I know of last summer. But I know over the years, it has always been a concern since the inception of the community. I mean, that was why it was installed during the construction. I believe the north part of the community was the first phase of construction, and the south part was the second phase. But I know as soon as they started building houses and residents moved in, they started having crime issues. And I think those have been relayed over the years. We've had every year, pretty faithfully, Sheila has showed up to our homeowners association meetings. This last summer, a lot of times we had the mayor again this summer, and we typically have a senior representative of Annapolis Police. Sergeant Baden is a particular person that we work with, but a lot of times senior officials from the police department. So they're aware of these issues. You know, at some point, you can't stop people from coming in on public streets, and they're going to just do what they're going to do. And, you know, we're not taking any violent action against anybody. And, you know, in a lot of these areas are, you know, once you get on that walking path, the only way to get back there is by walking or riding a bike or something. So, it's harder to patrol. We've certainly spoken to the city, but in this case, because it was flagged as a conservation easement issue, we felt we needed to come first to this board, because you all have the power to make any exceptions to this rule. And like I said, you know, this has been subject to inspection by the Conservation Board for 15 years. So the only thing that changed was that somebody complained, and to be honest, the complaint was painted as an imminent thing that had happened, and other things were occurring which were causing problems and getting worse. And none of that was true. All we did was just repair a lock that had been probably broken for 5 years, and somebody objected to that. So that's what happened. All we did was take care of that lock because of a theft that had occurred, some trespassing. A young child was chased by a group of kids who then were, parents sort of chased them out of the neighborhood. So we've had some incidents where people are concerned for their safety, and we engage the police. We work with the city as much as we can, but we would prefer to go this route because I think we've come up with a reasonable solution.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, one of the questions, Joanna, that I would bring and talking among everybody, my concern is that would put our committee taking action, I think, which is above what our charter gives to us, as far as, because in essence, what we would be doing is getting into the more legal enforcement, not so much of a conservation easement, which is fine, but we would be getting more into the enforcement of public safety, which I think is beyond our purview. That was the reason why I originally asked whether if anything had been done, up through the, up through the mayor, up through your alderperson, in order to be able to, address the issue, because it sounds like what we're talking about is more than just a conservation easement. It sounds like we're talking, again, getting back to what I just shared, more public safety. And I don't think our charter within the Conservancy Board touches on public safety. That was my concern.
Yeah,
but again, just 2 cents worth, so that if there's more, discussion that you all want to have, by all means, please feel free.
Yeah, could I comment on that?
Actually, hang on, let me just make sure I clarify one thing real quick, Dan. So Tom and Ashley, please jump in here since we're familiar with all this, certainly. But so Tom, yes, our charter does not have anything about public safety or maintaining that. What we're looking at today is whether or not the gate in question does sort of infringe upon what's in the conservation easement and prevent it from doing what it was put in place to do. So we're not deciding anything related to public safety. I'm not sure if that clarifies your question. It's whether or not.
Well, yeah, Joanna, I'm sorry. Yeah, it does. And I guess that, what you've just done is underscore my thoughts on this is that while it is easy to merge one into the other, I do believe that goes beyond our purview, as far as our responsibility to the board and the city. But, we're not trying to discount that there may very well be a need. My concern is whether this is the right avenue to officially make the change or to officially have something accomplished that might be better off in another venue.
So
are we ready for board discussion? Is that where we are, or
could I make a final comment on that?
Yeah, Dan, one moment to speak. Yep.
So just real quick. So if you're not aware, the conservation easement and the original community plat were the first things laid down before I think before the community development plan was even finalized. And so that basically set those boundaries open. And so if you look at what the intent of conservation easement is, I think it's for access, it's for green space, it's for transit, for other things like that. The thing that we would offer is that, we haven't gone and had a survey, or we could further engage with the city, but that the access path goes only between 2 properties. It's almost entirely paved. And the intent of that is to be able to access the outside pathway to and from the community. And so, and clearly the area outside is obviously conservation easement. In fact, there's that 30-foot buffer on the plats, which was a right of way for the city if they ever, a road was ever developed, which I think actually goes out another 100 feet. But you go back to the intent of what it is and why there's an easement outside. It's for people to enjoy that. We would argue that we've been a very good neighbor with the city with allowing residents permissive public use of that area. We never really written that down. It's kind of a general principle our board is operated under. But by keeping that open or removing that gate, you are now going to increase the security risk to our community. And frankly, I think somebody had mentioned there are exceptions that can be made. Just like we have a locked gate around a water area, this gate in near an area where crime has been demonstrated, it's a variance to the easement that I think is within that we would hope is within your purview. The other thing I would say too, this has been a very contentious and time consuming issue, and we really would just prefer to if you guys are able to make a decision, it would be very, very helpful for the community, because going before the council in this environment, we don't want to delay this. And so that's where we stand.
Sure. And I would Ashley, is that a hand raised?
I was just gonna say before you go into board's discussion, I would just Mr. Brooks points whether he No, it's not. He made some good points. Is that you should focus on whether this gate ultimately changes how the conservation area is being used, because you're all correct that public safety is beyond your purview. So what you need to do is, does this gate in any way affect how the conservation easements are being laid out, with the understanding that you're allowed pedestrian pathways? And that's your focus. And keep in mind that under the conservation easement, the city, upon your recommendation or otherwise, can enter into an agreement with the association to allow structures like this if there's a finding that the gate or the structure doesn't actually affect how the conservation easement is being used. So what the city would like from your board is a determination on whether this gate has any impact on the conservation easement or not, and what your recommendation would be to us. And then from there, we will take those recommendations back to the city administration and applicable departments to make a final decision on whether they want to agree in writing to allow this gate to remain or not. So I will leave it in your hands to that. And although I'm still here if you need any other thoughts.
Thank you, Ashley. That was very well put. I appreciate your input there. I also just wanted to say before we jump into kind of a little board discussion section during the meeting is I do want to again thank you, Dan, and thank you, Timothy, for attending the meeting. I appreciate also Dan being able to speak with you a few weeks back. And for those of you who are listening from the Kingsport community, I really do appreciate the letters, the communications that you have sent. We've read them, we appreciate it, and thank you very much for your time. We certainly appreciate all the issues that you've brought to our attention. And with that, go ahead. Trudy, if you had something you wanted to share. And
let me start by saying thank you particularly to the Kingsport who worked hard and did a good job and brought us a potential solution, and to Ashley who are being a wonderful, clear, crisp, precise lawyer and helping us. And part of the reason I was saying, can we get on with this? I think we were digressing beyond the scope or even the need to explore what is the function of this committee. And for me, hearing that the board's role with easements is not about ensuring public access. I may not philosophically love that answer, but that is the legal answer. And to me, this whole debate and my feelings about it was about that. And I feel like the communities tried to meet a reasonable standard of access, balancing their concerns about safety, which I agree or not. We shouldn't make this decision on safety or not safety, and I just think for me, as one of the outspoken people initially, if we don't have a role in being able to require public access along with easements, to me, that sort of brought that issue to a close. Someday, Madam Chairman, I hope that the Conservancy Board can indeed put together the notion of easements with public access, so that, as we've talked about, people can get access to water and access to amenities. But that's for the future. And for now, I'm content with the solution offered. I think it's fair, and I don't think we need to assess necessarily safety, community angst, or anything. I think our own rules and regulations and laws guide us to the answer in this case. Not that that isn't important, but I mean, in terms of the way we would decide this. So that's what I have to say about that. I'm prepared to accept the agreement and whatever adjustments that makes in how the city has to specify that they can continue to maintain a gate on an easement.
thank you, Trudy. I appreciate it. Meg, are you trying to?
Well, I was just going to say that I agree that Kingsport has come up with a good solution. And the gate, from my perspective, has a minimal impact upon the value of the conservation easement itself. So I would vote in favor of recommending that the city allow Kingsport to implement the decisions that they've made.
Thank you. Any other?
If that's a motion, I'd be happy to second it, Meg, too.
If I can, Joanne, I think the final decision needs to be with you, and it still needs to be in, I don't want to say closed session, but, you know, this is something that goes beyond, I think the you know, what we're currently, this portion of our meeting. So I would recommend postponing any decisions until everybody has had a chance within the board to express their own opinions.
Okay, so Ashley, I'm going to call on you. I did take the training for going to a closed session, but I cannot say that I remember off the top of my head all the 15 reasons to move into a closed session. I'm not sure this is one of those.
I have a comment I would like to make before we go into a closed session.
We're not, hold on, we're not going into it just yet.
All right,
Okay.
so you can go into a closed session for further discussion and for legal advice. So you would need to bring me in there for further legal advice and discussion. You would have to vote to go into closed session first, then we would have to switch you over, and then we would have to vote to come back out of it. The reason I don't have all 15 memorized, but the one that would be applicable to you is if you want to have further discussion between the board and your legal advisor.
Okay, thank you. That's the one I was aware of as well. Okay, so what Ashley mentioned is correct. So if we want to consider going into closed session, that has to be a vote by the board, whether or not we go into closed session. It would be a majority vote to go into it or not. Karen, do you want to add anything?
I just wanted to, like, kind of as a point of historic context, that in the past, the city has been very generous isn't really the word I'm looking for, but like in the past, the city put conservation easements on a lot of things that aren't really conservation easements. Like they called things conservation easements that weren't really conservation easements. Sometimes they were landscape strips. Sometimes they were other kinds of buffer, small, you know, land buffers. But these are the things that in the past, we as a board have kind of referred to as strip easements. It's kind of like a slang that we use for these like little pieces of property, and they aren't, a lot of them don't even have like vegetation. So I would argue that this little piece of path that has the gate on it is basically a strip easement that's kind of a legacy of when the city was just like, this is the word I'm looking for, liberally applying conservation easements to places that shouldn't have been conservation easements. I don't know that we should necessarily, and I guess my point is I don't know that we should necessarily evaluate this little strip easement section as we would another forested area, because it's not really a conservation piece, you know what I mean? Like in the same way, you know, like a big tract of forest or even a small tract of forest would be. And in other places where we have these, in the city where we have these strip easements, we have found it like almost impossible to monitor them and require maintenance in the way that you would a real conservation easement, because they're not really, you know, they don't have ecological value in the same way. And so, so I just wanted to bring that up and kind of, especially like with Ashley on the line and stuff like just to sort of kind of bring up this history of like, that we do have these other kinds of easements that they have been called conservation easements and they have deed of conservation on them, but they're not really, like, we historically have not been able to manage them in the same way that we do other kinds of conservation easements. And we have complained to planning and zoning in more recent years about that they shouldn't be calling things conservation easements if they aren't really conservation, like ecologically valuable conservation areas. And they have stopped doing that. But I think Kingsport was kind of like one of the last ones where they were doing that. Although I guess Village Greens was about that time too. And there's some strip easements over there as well. So, but in general, I think planning and zoning has kind of gotten the message now that like really tiny little strips of, you know, different parts of land that aren't really ecologically valuable shouldn't be called conservation easements. They should be called some other kind of easement, like either a landscape buffer or open space easement or something, have some other terminology. And I think they've started doing that now. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there to kind of put that context as well on you know, this one little segment with the gate on it.
Thank you, Karen, for the historical context. I'll share my personal views. I don't think that the gate, as it stands, impacts the easement's ability to do what it's intended to do. And I think the compromise that's been reached seems to be reasonable and works for both parties. I would love to entertain a motion from any board members as to where to go next with this discussion, either into closed session or to make a motion to make a recommendation to the city.
I'd be happy to move that we accept the solution that's been offered, that it respects the requirements relative to the easements and has provided a reasonable solution to the situation.
And I would add to that that you recommend to the city to enter into a written agreement to allow the gate.
Thank you. Yes, I accept your friendly amendment.
Tammy, do you need to that so you can write that down, or?
Joanne, I would like to offer a counter proposal only because of trying to keep things extremely clear, is that we do enter into closed session for the purpose of consultation and agreement with our attorney. Because if we move forward independently, what we're doing is we are sanctioning something that I believe at least is currently beyond the authority of our board. Upon agreement or conclusion or concurrence with our attorney, then we can move forward. For our friends at Kingsport, I don't see any additional impediment that would be affecting them. I'm just trying to keep this thing legal so that we don't run into a stone wall a little bit further on because we have not checked with the right people or gone through the right procedure. Right now, by doing this, my opinion is that we are offering ourselves to concurring with a legal opinion based on public safety and not based on what our requirements are. So I would move that we go into closed session, make that determination, hopefully quickly, and then move on, as opposed to just letting it be done in open meeting like we are.
I'd like, since I think you were saying you were amending or responding to my motion. My motion has nothing to do with public safety. My motion says that this is consistent with the protections for conservation easements that we're required to do. And since one of them is not to ensure public access to all conservation, that this is a reasonable accommodation. So just to be clear, that was the point I was trying to make. I don't think we have any role in determining public safety for Annapolis, nor do I think my motion speaks to that or related to that. I said, I think it's an important concern to the residents. They've expressed it beautifully and amply, and but I think in terms of what we need to evaluate and consider, that it is within, we discussed it's within what we need to look at. And I presume that Ashley would, if she thought we were going astray, would speak up now. I just know, as one who deals with public process all the time, the idea that we would think we need to restrain any discussion from the Kingsport residents who clearly care passionately about this. I just think it makes unnecessary concerns that.
Well,
thanks for
Trudy. In my opinion, as a final recourse, I'm not trying to build any obstructions into it. I would just like additional clarification from our attorney as far as exactly what we can and cannot do, so that we don't overstep our bounds. Now, going back to the age-old thing that we all signed, that if we disagree, or if the city disagrees with what our decision is, because what we're doing, the difference between a decision and a recommendation is that we are subject to a $5,000 a day fine. So because of those ancient documents that are still sitting within the Annapolis rules and regulations, I just want to make sure none of us cross that untoward with something that can be easily resolved with allowing our attorney to discuss with us and clarify with the entire board what can be done. And I see that as being able to be occurring within the next 5 to 10 minutes.
All right, so we have two motions on the floor, and please, Jackie and Ashley, please guide me here, the procedure when we have two motions on the floor, how we move forward with that.
Well, have either of them been seconded yet?
No.
All right, so
Negative.
I guess the next question would be is if anyone's willing to second, and whichever one gets seconded first, then you vote on that.
I'd like to second Trudy's motion.
So, sorry about that. I just had a moment there. All right. All right. So all in favor in Trudy's motion. This is a little challenging virtually. Please say aye. And is it okay to go one at a time here, Ashley and Jackie? Just, we have some on the phone and some virtual.
Yeah,
okay.
It should go one at a time. They should say
Thank
their
you.
name and their vote.
All right. So we are voting on Trudy's motion. We'll go one at a time. I'll just start with Karen. Sorry.
Can you just restate the motion exactly? Thanks.
Yep. Go ahead, Trudy.
I had some background to it, but the simple motion is that we accept the solution as presented to us as by the resident association as consistent with the limitations and role of the conservation board.
And I guess also,
And that the city has help me out, Ashley, and that the city would,
And that you're recommending that the city enter into a written agreement to allow the gate to stay. And then after we do the second, you can ask for any further discussion. If there's no further discussion, then do the vote. Tammy reminded me, I'm a little rusty.
Thank you, Tammy. All right, so is that clear for you, Karen, there? The order? What Trudy said?
I guess I'm not clear. So,
So I think what
so we're basically recommending that the city put in writing
That's right.
that they accept the gate in perpetuity with this agreement about the when it can be open and
Yes, and I can
Okay.
read through that if you like. So I think, and Trudy, please correct me if I'm wrong. Ashley, please correct me if I'm wrong. So what Trudy is suggesting here that we're voting to recommend to the city to rescind the cure letter, I think, which would be part of the step here.
thank you.
And then also to accept the compromise that Kingsport has reached with Bob Wilson, which is that the gate would have an upgraded lock with a programmable time function that would be installed that would allow the gate to be unlocked from about 8 a.m. to about 5 p.m. The gate will also be painted white to match surrounding areas, and the Kingsport will install some temporary asphalt, followed by probably a more permanent overlay of asphalt to help with the rollover situation over the bar that currently exists. So again,
I know we have a second already, but
now we can discuss.
I think it would be clearer if we did this as three separate motions, where it was one is to rescind the cure letter, one is to approve the solution, and one is to recommend that the city include it in writing. I think otherwise it's kind of getting unwieldy, and I'm not sure if it's clear what we're voting on. You know what I mean? Or somebody should like just say out the whole thing before we vote on it, just to make sure that we're clear about the full extent of this. I mean,
Well, Karen, if it helped, that's what I, in my probably too inept way, was attempting to do, though that, I mean, if you'd like, my motion could be to rescind the cure letter, to support the things that have been described as proposed, and to have the city recommend to the city that they enter into an agreement to permit the gate under the conditions that were specified.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I was trying to wrap it all up into, because I think it is very much a package. I mean, I don't think you could vote to rescind the cure letter without knowing where that took you or without the city being engaged. So to me, it all just appears to be a 3-step process within one motion.
Okay.
I can clarify that.
Does
Okay.
that clarify it?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions on clarification? Again, what is in the motion? Just want to make sure everyone's 100% clear on that. Okay. All right. Any more discussion from board members regarding the motion at hand?
Joanne, again, just other than I think that there's still too much confusion to vote something that is going to last on in perpetuity for the however many hundreds of years Annapolis will continue to be, by coming up with something as specific an answer as this. That means if they ever decide to change, they have to apply to the city or apply to the Conservation Board in order to do that. You know, I would like to be able to come back to the city of Kingsport with a specific decision like, yep, okay, fine, don't worry about it, or we're doing away with the conservation easement, or something or other that will allow the homeowners association and the people, you know, the citizens of Kingsport to actually be able to run their own area and not make a law that is going to, conditionally lock them in. That's my concern with going back with this, again, without laying something out specifically, getting our attorney to say yes, no, maybe, and then go forward, with that as a decision. Again, that's my only concern is we're driving it down too far. We concur and appreciate the, what the citizens have come up with. Is it something there that, is that the perfect answer? And I don't even think that even, after going through all the laborious area that they've come up with, that they will agree that that is a perfect answer. It is an answer, but, do we want to give them the latitude in order to be able to do things that make sense for their community? And if we go back and specifically give them a charter that we are going through to get signed with by the city, I think we're hamstringing them. I think, we're not addressing the overall problem. We are addressing the symptoms. And again, if it hadn't, again, my one last thing is everything that they had shared was concern about public safety. A group of kids chasing a kid and having to be chased off by, by people being held up at gunpoint, people, I hear it, I live, right, next to Robinwood. So, I get it, but it's just, we want to give them the latitude from the city to do what they think is best in order to be able to do that. And as long as it is staying within the legal authorities and they've got, they're talking to the Annapolis police people and all the right things, they've got an opportunity to really make this thing go away, not just, a one-time fix for this specific niche. That was the whole reason for that. But again, you guys have been on the board and, we all carry equal weight. So I'm more than happy to, to share the ideas. Just think we've got an opportunity to actually fix the problem instead of trying a solution. And that's it for me as far as thoughts.
Appreciated it.
If I could just kind of add or respond to Tom's comments, I guess that's sort of part of the reason why I was asking for clarification on the motion is just that if we are recommending to the city that to put in writing that this gate is an acceptable structure in the easement, then it was kind of like, okay, is that no matter what, or is that only when they have these conditions in it? So it does kind of complicate things. I wonder if maybe it would be simpler just to rescind the cure letter because they've come to this solution and leave it at that. Could we do that? What do you guys think? And then that way we're just saying, okay, we're not going to require you to take this gate out anymore because you've come to a solution that we are amenable with. And then it just, we're not requiring any enforcement at that point.
Hey, Karen, this is Tom. I agree. As far as, especially buying them some time in order to be able to do, to do the thing right. I mean, everybody's invested a lot of time and effort into this, so nobody wants to see it just forgotten. But to be able to get the clarification, as you said, I concur as far as the, doing away with the cure notice, especially as a good first step, so that no one has any sort of Damocles hanging over their head.
I'm just going to take a wild guess that if you're a resident of Eastport, you've spent all this time and this passion on this issue, you wouldn't think having it non-resolved tonight was going to feel like they had taken something hanging over their head. I mean,
well, I think it is resolving it though, because it's saying that like, okay, we agree with your solution, so we're not making you take the gate out.
Let me, before it's more,
we're just not putting it in.
Okay, so just to sort of circle you guys back, all you would be making a motion on is a recommendation to the city. Ultimately, I probably, in consultation with city staff and administration, would be negotiating out what would be the specifics of that agreement with this homeowner association. We could consider recommendations you want, but ultimately it would be a private negotiation between the city and the association as to exactly what type of gate would be allowed in there, what the parameters of the gate would be. We would be making the final decision on that. At the city as a whole, not me, but the city as a whole. All your board is doing is, one, yes, you should either rescind or not rescind your recommendation for a cure letter. And then two, recommend whether the city should enter into negotiations to, I'm trying to think. Your motion should be, one, rescind or not rescind the cure letter, and two, a recommendation to the city as to whether you would object to the city entering into negotiations to allow this gate. I'm kind of spitballing on the spot, but you could simplify it down as far as the board itself does not have any objections to the gate staying in the conservation easement, and you recommend further discussion by the city staff and administration as to how it wishes to proceed. You just make it that simple, that you don't object to the gate and that you rescind your cure letter and call it a day.
I will happily modify my recommendation to embrace what you just said.
I will just say again, as one who spent my life in this process of working things through government and administrative rules, to punt for this group, which has spent all this time and effort, and that the neighborhood group, to reach a solution that they tell us they can live with, and turn it over to city bureaucrats who will privately start over again and negotiate with them. I would not find that a very satisfactory conclusion.
Well, I would just clarify one more time, Trudy. So regardless of what we're recommending, it's a recommendation to the city. So
I understand. But
yeah.
We should be able to put our cumulative wisdom together. We've heard now several hours of discussion on this issue. I would think we can give the city a recommendation of what we think was a reasonable solution, and not just say it's all too legally scary or whatever is motivating us to, we want to punt on the specifics. If they think we've done something and that Kingsport has offered us a solution that they don't like, we understand they have the authority to do something different. I don't know why we exist to spend all this time and effort and issue a cure letter and say we objected to it, stop it, tear it down, and now we can't even bring ourselves to say there's a reasonable compromise that we can endorse for the city to consider. All
right. No, I appreciate that very much. I just want to let Meg, if she has a comment. I see you're off mute, and then I think we should probably proceed and vote on the first motion and second. I think procedurally we have to do that. Meg, you have a comment?
I was just going to say, I think we have to get back to the basics in a way, that our concern is the conservation easement. A gate has no impact on that easement because this is not a gate that is going to prevent movement of wildlife, for example. So, to my mind, recommending to the city that they accept the solution that the homeowners themselves have come up with is just the logical place to go.
So I think we've probably heard points from all board members at this point. I think procedurally, Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have to go ahead and vote on the motion that was first proposed and then seconded, right?
It's been, yeah, since it's been seconded, if that's the end of your discussion, then you would vote. But I really don't think this is a punt, because you're voting to rescind the letter that was sent to the HOA, and then you are voting that the gate may stay as it does not impact the objectives of the conservation easement is basically what you're voting on.
That's right. All right, so again, I'm going to read off what is in the motion that was made by Trudy and seconded by Meg Hosmer. The motion includes that we would recommend to the city to 1, rescind the cure letter, to 2, accept the solution proposed by Kingsport, which includes an upgraded lock with programmable time function, opening the gate from 8 to 5, painted white, new asphalt for rollover purposes, and that the city enters in a written agreement with those facts laid out with the Kingsport Community Association. And so now I think we all will go ahead and say yay or nay. I'll go ahead and vote yay. Joanna Ogburn.
Trudy McFall, yes.
Meg Hosmer, yes.
Yeah, this is Tom. I'll still have to vote no because I think it ties their hands too restrictively. I mean, if we say a specific, time, it ties their hands.
Gotcha. All right.
No for me.
Karen Jennings, yes.
All right, the motion passes. Tammy, did you receive everything you needed to get that down in writing?
I did, thank you.
Okay, all right, just want to double check. Okay, thank you very much, Dan, for coming. We really appreciate your time. Thank you to Captain Lowe for coming as well. And again, to all the Kingsport residents, we really appreciate your comments and concerns. We take them to heart, and hopefully we can work more closely together in the future, any issues that do arise. So thank you all for your time.
Yeah, I do appreciate everything. I did thank Tom. I appreciate, your nuance there. I think this is an opportunity for us to come back and engage the city on some of these issues. But yeah, I really, really appreciate this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, great. All right. Then thank you, Eric. I see you just did your magic there with the Zoom meeting. All right. And I just also, again, want to thank the board members, everybody here today. I know this is a big issue. It was a little bit contentious, a lot of pieces to it. So thank you for sticking with it and going through the discussion. It's important, obviously, the community to make sure that we thought through it. So thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your leadership.
Oh, thank you. It's very kind. Okay, we'll try to move these next pieces through fairly quickly here to get everyone home to your dinners. Well, I guess we are home, but over to your dinner, whatever it is that you would like to do. And move on to approval of the September 10th meeting minutes. Meg made some edits, which Tammy sent out to everybody, I think yesterday. Does anybody else have any more edits or comments for the September 10th meeting minutes?
I move that we adopt the minutes, approve the minutes.
Great, and I will second that. So we have a first by Meg Hosmer and a second by Joanna Ogburn for Tammy to approve the meeting minutes from September 10th. I don't want to take too much of your time, guys, but I do want to let you know about some exciting news with the Greenway Map input.
We have to vote. We have to vote.
Crap, I'm sorry, I get so excited. Okay, all right. All those in favor of passing the minutes as edited, please say yay or nay. Yay.
Agreed. Yay.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, that's unanimous, Tammy. Thank you guys very much. Okay, I'm going to try to, Eric, I think I'm allowed to share my screen.
Yes, you should.
While you're doing that, Jackie, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big deal.
The big long title is Deputy City Manager for Resilience and Sustainability. So
Okay.
Brian Adams has moved to Planning and Zoning. City Forester is now in Planning and Zoning. And Racine Hodo, who is the Environmental Program Coordinator, is part of my staff.
Well,
Yes. And so while we're on that topic, I asked Brian to join us here today because this will be the last meeting here with us as a liaison to our board. He is moving to Planning and Zoning, as Jackie mentioned, so he will no longer be a liaison. So I wanted to ask him to attend this meeting so that we could all thank him for this time. You know, all the help he's given us and advice over the years. So thank you, Brian, very much for your service. We'll miss you and wish you the best of luck in planning and zoning.
Thank you.
Brian.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking with us through all this today as well. We appreciate
No
it.
problem.
And Jackie, same to you. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So, so for now, will be your staff liaison.
Okay.
So we'll change that over to Racine, but for now it's me.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'll tell you guys this very quickly. I just want to make sure you're all aware what I've been doing in the background, and Sean Wampler has been really instrumental in putting together. Hopefully, can you all see something on your screen? It looks kind of like a map. Okay, you can see that. So as we talked last time, so to start off a while back, Karen, Meg, and myself met to identify some places within the city that we thought were important to either kind of protect because of their ecological, passive recreational, scenic, or community values, or places that could be enhanced to provide those kind of values. So again, we're looking for places that would help to form a Greenway map, as we've been talking about over the past year or so. So we came up with the places that we thought were important, but obviously realized we needed to get input from others. So what we have done, and I've worked really closely with Sean Wampler over the past month, who has been really, really helpful and instrumental in putting this together, is to build what you see in front of you, which is a Greenway Map input tool. I'm going to walk you through it really quickly. I also have put together a full list of instructions on how to use this, so I'll send those to you guys as well. And you can always reach out to me or Sean with any questions. What happens when you first open this Greenway Map input tool is you will get a help box that has instructions in it on how to use it. The text up there right now is not what's going to be there, so ignore that text. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for you. What you see is obviously the city of Annapolis. There's a little legend over here that tells you what you're looking at. I'll tell you really quickly. The light pink is the boundary of the city. The areas that are yellow with the sort of gray dots around them, those are the places that were highlighted by Meg, Karen, and myself as places we thought would be important to include on a Greenway map. You can zoom in. Boop, 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 boo. You can zoom into the tool. The more you zoom in, the more data becomes available. And if you zoom way in, you can actually see the parcel boundaries and parcel points, which allow you to find out information about each parcel that's here. This is public information, by the way, that's being pulled from the State Department of Assessment and Taxation. So when you click on one of these parcel points, you can find out any information that's publicly available, who owns it, acreage, location, those kinds of great things. What we are going to be asking people to do, and we will be sending this to right now all the boards that the city holds or maintains, excuse me. So I think there's 20 boards, 20 to 24 different boards, Jackie, if I'm correct. We'll be sending it out to board members. We'll be sending it out to aldermen, to city staff, to the city liaisons, African-American liaison, Hispanic liaison. Gosh, I'm probably blanking on some other individuals that we're going to send this to, other kind of leaders in the city to get their take on what places they feel like are important to include in a Greenway map, either because one, they could deserve protection for their values, or two, they could be enhanced to provide values like a connection between trailways or reforested or something of that nature. So what you can do is when you click in here, if there's a place that you would like to add to the Greenway map or propose adding to the Greenway map, you know, you say, this is just really made up here, but say I wanted to choose this area up here, you would click on add an area, and then you'd be able to draw sort of a polygon like I'm drawing here to the area you want to include. And then you're able to say why you think this area is important, the primary reason. Is it because it's special habitat, it's wooded, it's adjacent to protected land? And then you could give a second reason why you think it's important to include in a Greenway map and provide any additional comments you have. And then if I were to click report it, that would then get saved on the back end, and the next person who would open up this map would see it included as a yellow kind of highlighted area like you see here. So it allows people to basically go in, zoom in, find an area that they want to propose for inclusion in a Greenway map, add it in here just like I did by drawing it, and explain to us why they think it's important to add to the Greenway map. You can also, if there's an area that's already been suggested for inclusion, which are all these yellow areas, you can also kind of vote, if you will, in a way, or just kind of say, I agree with that idea. If you click on one of the places that have already been highlighted, you can hit sort of this heart here, and that lets us know that more than one person thinks that it's an important place to consider for the Greenway map.
Does it tell you who voted though for that?
I don't think so. I'd have to ask Sean, because I know, I don't think it does. Just ours by the Conservancy board. I don't know if you can or can't, and I'm not sure if, we could talk about whether or not that's important or not to collect who suggested it.
So they could put in there, for example, if it was a nonprofit that went in there and said, we're getting ready to do a restoration project here, and this would be good area to protect as forest or habitat or whatever, they can make that comment.
Yes, they could make that comment.
Yeah, and because I was just wondering if someone did that, let's say it was Spa Creek Conservancy, would you know who it came from?
Yeah. That's ask Sean if there's a way for us to do that. Do you feel like it's necessary to know that?
Well, in that case, it would be helpful to know, like if they're saying we have a grant to do a living shoreline in this area and some restoration on this property, you would want to know who that was. Let me see, ask Sean.
Yeah, I'm not sure I quite follow, and that could just be me at this hour.
It wouldn't be some random person, just saying that, but they could, I guess they could put in the comment section, this is Spa Creek Conservancy, and we're doing a project in this area. And that way we would know who it was.
Yes. Yeah. You can put whatever you want in the comments. Yeah. I think when I talked to Sean, I don't know if you can catch who it is necessarily, but I don't think we wanted to make people do that. We were afraid it would prevent people from
being honest about it.
Yeah. From putting stuff in there.
Because they do so much of that kind of work. The members of the Waterways Cabinet may be a good group to send that to.
I'm going to put that on my list, Jackie.
Yeah, and I can get you the list of participants.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I'm puzzled by the yellow going over existing development. What is that? What are we to make of that? Somewhere within that yellow is thought to be a good spot. Is that what that means?
Question.
Yeah, I think that's probably what happened.
Where's they get a few people excited who think we're planning to tear down their house, but
yeah. What probably happened was the map that we gave to Sean that Karen or Meg or myself highlighted. Somebody might have just circled like a bigger area than just the green area or something, and she just put the whole parcel in there. We can edit that down. So we could try to go through and clean this up as people are working kind of in the map. That's something we might be able to do on the back end with Sean. Couple of things I'll point out. One, so the plan is right now that we would go ahead and send this tool out to existing board members, the Waterways Cabinet, aldermen, and the city liaisons, and potentially anybody else that you feel like is important, just kind of a city representative or a community representative. All that input we're going to ask to sort of get in by the end of December. At that point, we would then, I'm not sure who at this point, we have to talk to the planning and zoning about that, have several members who would really sit down, look at all the input that came in and edit it down to what makes sense to put into a draft Greenway map. And that draft map would then go into the comprehensive plan update draft. As part of the draft, that would be put out for public comment, I think in February, I think is what they're shooting for. Does that make sense? I can clarify. I know I'm moving kind of quickly here.
I mean, I hate to hold things up, but I think it needs to be cleaned up before that step because, for example, there are things that are current easements in here they're on here in yellow. So I'm not sure.
Which ones are you?
Used. Well, like Baywoods, for example, and Vitar. Although Vitar isn't.
Vitar is not an easement.
But Baywoods certainly is.
I don't know which one that is. I'm sorry.
It's I don't know that you won't see my cursor, but it's over off Back Creek.
I would say if there are things like that and you want to take a look at it and sort of write them down and shoot them to Sean.
Okay.
I'm sure she'd be happy to do that in the background. I don't want to hold it up too much longer because we need to get the input. I think
I'm just worried that we're going to get like input that like isn't helpful if people are like, like what if everybody says, oh, we should preserve this thing and it's already an easement, like, so that's why I'm just like worried about.
Then we don't have to include it on a Greenway map as something to preserve. We can really include it as being preserved. So that's again,
I'd like to agree with Karen that I think that we should have a chance to look at this and potentially clean it up. It looks quite disjointed right now. So I would be interested in making sure that our recommendations are reflected on it.
So I think all the parcels that you guys highlighted as well as myself before and submitted to Sean are on there. I haven't double checked all of them.
It would be nice though, like, I don't know, maybe a way to do it is like an introduction or something. I don't know if it was just going to get mailed out to all the boards or if there was going to be like some sort of like, like explanation like you're doing for us right now, but just like something to like explain like, well, we chose these parcels because you can see if you look at these, then you could walk all the way around Spot Creek or, like these different reasons that like we looked at certain things. I don't know. I think it might help.
We don't have, so I can send you the email and all the draft documents that I've gone through with planning and zoning that will be sent out to people to explain the mapper tool itself, which you guys have all seen and all commented on. And it doesn't say exactly why each parcel has been chosen. At some point, yes, we need to do that and we need to get that in there. But I'm concerned how long it took us to kind of do the first few steps. I don't want to hold it up too much longer. If you think you can provide that information within like a week to Sean and she can maybe try to add it in here, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know that it needs to be on each parcel. Maybe it could just be like, or I don't know, maybe we just want to hold this information close for now, but like, like when we were talking about, like we were saying, like, it seems like the first priorities would be to make this corridor and then in this corridor and this corridor, like just to kind of like, just have like a couple sentences saying like, we looked at the headwaters of College Creek and, which could all be connected in this way. And we looked at walking around all the way around Spot Creek and I don't know, just like listing what those priorities were. I don't remember off the top of my head. I have to go back and look at my notes, but, just like 3 bullet points saying like, these were some, like bigger picture goals for specific creeks that we had in mind, but then we also looked at other parcels just to kind of give people a little bit of background when they look at this. So they aren't like, well, why did they do all these? This doesn't make sense, or, or they aren't trying to reinvent the wheel.
That point was raised by the Annapolis Environmental Commission as well. They said they'd hoped to see some sort of, brief introduction along those lines of the why and how the areas were picked, whether it's for aesthetic, was it for particular habitat or contiguous forests? Is it to provide connectivity for walking trails or biking trails or a loop around the city? So, listing the types of goals we're trying to achieve with this.
So that is listed in the document. That is, hang on one second, Trudy.
I'm sorry.
It's listed in the document that I share with you guys, which was a comment that somebody provided, which is, what do you want us to use to make decisions on? Is that what you're referring to, Jackie?
Yes.
So I would ask all you guys, please, I'll send it out again. Please take a look at the information that I sent around before that is sort of the information that would go out with this map. And read through it closely. If you feel like something's missing, put an edit and track changes is what I'm going to ask you to do. And yeah, happy to take a look at that. But definitely let's read through what we already have and what most folks have already kind of looked through and edited at this point, and see what else needs to be added. And certainly, Karen, like if you want to make a suggestion in there, like, you know, some of the things that we're considering looking at is, yeah, making connections for trails, you know, whatever it is that's not there. You know, like for example, things you might want to consider looking at, blah, 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 something like that. I think we could easily put something in there to help explain that a little bit more. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. And Trudy, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, you said, I mean, I think just a general description, we haven't reached any final conclusion, so we don't have to articulate in any great detail. I think you can look at this and figure out these yellow blobs are trying to connect as best they can, and we're interested in connectivity, but I would really be more concerned in sending out a yellow thing over existing houses. I just think that could get us backlash we don't need. We're not talking about taking houses to create green space. So we're
not, and that hopefully is clear in the instructions again.
But don't we have some that are overlapping? I thought when we circled in, but anyway, that would just concern me. That would get people.
I think that would be a more difficult exercise to.
It's not easy.
Well, maybe
yeah.
it's fine. You know, I just thought we were looking at sometimes you had a whole big cluster of houses with a yellow blob over it. But yeah,
I don't know.
It seems to me sending it out to people and saying, here's a starting point to figure out how we could create a connectivity greenway plan for Annapolis is a pretty, you know, say whatever else, but I don't think you need a ton of criteria. We haven't picked priorities till we're done with this process, really, right? We just picked some that we thought made sense as a board and put them down. But anyway, you know, I think we could all look at it again one more time, but I think we should, I don't think we have to create the perfect product to send it out as a draft and ask for people to give us feedback.
Yeah, and the idea again is for people to tell us their ideas of what places are important and where they feel those corridors, as well as what our ideas are here too. And that, you know, we take that back into consideration with city staff to figure out what makes sense for a Greenway map again, and what doesn't. So yeah, still very much like you said in the draft process.
Congratulations for getting this far.
Yeah, I really commend all of you for doing, Joanne, for your leadership on this and for everyone. I mean, we've been talking about this a year and a half ago and then I just
We've been wanting to do this for like a decade. So, so definitely kudos to Joanna for getting it done.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to complain at all. I apologize if I was.
No, this will be the first time that they have this overlay to the comp plan, and it can be something that's evergreen and they continue to work on.
It is. It's definitely, you know, a start. I think it's a good point, Jackie. Yeah, there's things we can build off from this point. But and I'm sorry to push like with my haste here. A lot of it is just to make sure we can get it in that comp plan update and give people the time needed. We've got a good opportunity to do that and to really hopefully make a difference with that, getting it in the comp plan. So just want to make sure we hit that timeline. I will send out the documents again, and please take a look. If you have edits, things you want to add, just go ahead and put them in track changes. If you can't do track changes, I feel like someone on the board doesn't have Word, then just email me, you know, what you think, or you can always feel free to call me too, and I'll get it in there for you. Yeah, any other questions or comments? I do also, again, want to say thank you so much to Sean. I know she's not on here, but you know, she built this thing on the back end, and yeah, if I'd had to do that, it would have, good Lord, it would be terrible. So she was really instrumental in getting it this far. Any other questions, comments, suggestions, concerns?
Well done. Well done.
Oh, thanks. Thanks everybody for your support, and to Karen and Meg for sitting down. I know we did that over a couple of weekends and really poured over that map. So thanks for your time too.
Joanne, I'm afraid I've got to scoot. We don't have anything else to vote on or do anything, do we?
I don't have anything to vote on. No, we do not. The only other things I want to point out is we do have to do an annual report again, and they're really asking that we get it in by January 15th.
I'll do you an edit again. That wasn't painful.
Oh, so you're willing to take the first crack at it?
Yeah. I did that last year. I'll do it again.
Thank you,
You'll have
Trudy.
to give me some facts.
Yeah, Trudy. All right.
I win January?
We have to approve it by January 15th. Our next board meeting is the 14th, I think. So as long as you're able to get it to us to look at it maybe a week ahead of that or whatever, I think would be fine. I'll shoot you an email about it, Trudy.
That's fine. And I'll write to you and Tammy for some facts. I do need some facts to go in. Yeah, sure. That wasn't painful. I didn't mind that at all.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm going to scoot.
I don't mean to.
Oh.
Go ahead, Meg.
I was just going to say, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have to also leave. I had another meeting that started at 7, so I will leave you all, and I look forward to seeing your email about the instructions for the map.
Awesome. I'll try and get that out later tomorrow. Really appreciate your time, all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Ellen.
Trudy and Meg. Thank you, guys.
I can figure out how to
Thank
leave
you.
There we go.
Talk later.
Good luck with that. All right. I think that's probably all we need to go over except for easement monitoring. I have a couple left. I'm waiting on a map coming from city staff to clarify the Kingsport boundaries before I go back out there and monitor it, as well as some information related to the Munns and Harness Creek easements. We did get a neighbor who said she's seen some clearing in the area she thinks is in the easement. And so I just want to get some clarification from city staff on what is and isn't included in the easement. That's one of those where we don't really have a document on the web that provides any information. So I'm not quite sure what the terms are with that one.
Which one was it that she's?
Harness Creek.
Oh, okay.
So it's
That's
the one
that Tom, by where Tom lives, I guess, right?
I don't know.
Is that the month? Is the same one as the months?
It's like, yeah. So it's next to that property that's owned by the county that we've like looked over for, I think, years, but then there's pieces behind those homes there.
Oh, you know what? Like we've never really, like, I think we looked at it once, but we've never really monitored those because they're these strip easements and some of them are stormwater easements.
We don't have anything on the website that says language. So I'm just trying to get clarification, like what our role is behind those houses and what, So
it's just I think, this is Tom. I think, the one I drive by, which is about the closest I can get, considering they still have us on lockdown. But the one area, and I haven't seen the clearing, but I mean, it basically was nothing but scrub. That was across the street from the Munns property. So. But I mean, it really was virtually impassable. So that's kind of one of those deals. But it was stormwater and any growth that could possibly grow and all that is kind of what happened.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you guys know what they find out. I've sort of put a request in. I think it's over to planning and zoning now. Not sure, Jackie, but I'll send an email out around about it again. But just to clarify again, if we actually have an easement on that and what the terms are on it, just to make sure.
I mean, there is an easement. It's just that it's one of these things that's like a really narrow easement between backyards that makes it almost impossible to manage.
Yeah, I did. So I don't think we have it on the website. So I'm going to try and get them to dig it up just to see what's in it in case we do need to talk to somebody about the clearing or not. Make sure we know what is and isn't allowed. So yeah, those are those two. I think, Karen, you may have a few easements on your list.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
My mother died a month ago very suddenly, and so I've been kind of thrown for a loop. So I apologize. I'm behind on everything in my life.
That is okay. And I think you just take the time you need. And if you can't get to them, please let us know. I'm sure one of us can take over those things. That's not a huge thing. So don't worry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that, Karen. Certainly thoughts about you and everyone. Yeah. Just let us know what you need. We can make it happen.
Okay.
And we have the funds for boundary surveys, which is awesome. Jackie, thanks for your hard work on that with the Critical Area Commission. So I think maybe next step there is to circle back with Ashley, I guess, and the folks at MET with some of the easements we talked about. I can shoot some emails around there and see what the next step might be. And then an MOU with the county. I believe Ashley sent us around something that we were supposed to edit. And I know I did not edit. I don't think anybody did. So I apologize, Ashley, if you're on the line. Tom actually did make a comment on it. But I'm going to check back in on that. Things have been a little crazy with the other things that we had going on.
Yeah, I just resent it to everyone. If I don't hear anything, my plan, which I said in the email, is I'll send it to the county law office next Friday. That doesn't mean it's final and you can't still get me comments, but that at least will keep the ball rolling and give the county office of law a chance to look at it. Because they usually take a fair amount of time to review things, depending on, what's urgent and not in the pipeline. So I can at least next Friday push it along to them. If you guys have any additional comments, even beyond that point, just let me know. I have a very good working relationship with my counterparts over at the county. So it's not like I can't go back and say, hey, my board had a couple more questions.
Okay.
What are we referring to? Which MOU?
Program open space funds, memorializing.
Sorry, Jackie, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, so it's an agreement with Anne Arundel County to memorialize sort of our verbal arrangement for how program open space funds have been shared.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll send that around again, what Ashley sent, for everyone to take a look at, and remind everybody that next Friday she's going to send it off to the county. But I
already did it, so you don't have to do it. I sent it to everyone.
Just now? Look at you. Aren't you something? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ashley.
And Ashley, where does our memorandum with the trust stand?
I think it was with them for final approval from their
critical area commission.
Yeah, I think it was with them for the big board, but I will circle around tomorrow.
Board, they did have their critical area commission did meet on the 7th and approved it. So I will follow up with Catherine.
Yeah, they were supposed to let either me or you know, and then we would circulate for signatures.
Okay, I will follow.
Gotcha. That's good to know. Well, let me know when that's final, and then we can start circling the wagons again. But I'll hold off on that. No, that's probably an important first step. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, so things are moving forward. I think we've got some great momentum. It's exciting. We do have a new board member hopefully coming on board soon. It just takes a long time to move to the city process, but her name is Linda Frost. She did join us for part of the meeting last time, couldn't make it tonight. But that's just, I think, just moving through the process. It has to go from the mayor to the Environmental Matters Committee to City Council, and it's just moving slowly through it. But then we'll just be down one member. And yeah, so we can start talking about that, but what to do about that. I guess I can check in with Hillary on what the process is for trying to find new board members.
Okay.
That's all I have for you guys. Does anybody have any questions? You've hung in there for a long time. Big meeting, lots to talk about. Any questions? Everything good?
I'll move to adjourn. Since nobody had any questions.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Yeah, I also concur. Ashley, your email just showed up, so your transmission well.
There you go. All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful evening and week, and I will be sending you